That's funny.
Hey guys, I have a dog on stream. Come here, Kiri. Kiri! Hey, Kiri, come here. Come here. Come say hi to the people. Oh, there's a little bit of dog head. Hey, look up here. Look up here. There you are, little dog head. Kind of. All right. Oh. Don't unplug that. Good girl. The dangers of having your dog on stream with you. Hi, everybody. I'm Ann, and that was Kiri. Kiri really likes the fact that although there is everything all over the floor over there, there's clear way to move behind me. So she's like, I can walk behind Mom and look out the window. So you may see dog cam here today. Um, she just sleeps, but since we're in the middle of the day this time, so I don't know. She's been at with my ex for the last few days while I was just trying to sort out everything and get everything like just work on stuff for this past bit, and also he's not going to see her after we move, so I've been trying to give him like maximum dog time. Because he won't be seeing her after we move to California. So she's back today. She'll be back for a few more days. And sorry for the lateness today, guys. Since this is the last day before Denton hits lockdown tonight, I had a lot of errands to just, go and run. So they took longer than anticipated. Who knew that the pharmacy would take me 25 minutes? So sorry. I meant to be on time. Yeah, if you're lucky, you may hear some woofing. Are you gonna woof at the people outside? She usually behaves for me. She likes to woof at people when she's at Zach's, but when she's here, she usually behaves because she knows I'll follow up if she doesn't stop. But every once in a while, if there's a dog being obnoxious outside and barking its head off, she will bark back. So maybe she is watching avidly out the front window. All right. All right, let us look at Dragon Cam then. Hi, everybody. Yeah, dog cam, no complaints. Well, she won't, she's settled down now. Okay, so we can move to minicam. Let's get on minicam. Yay! And this is where saran wrapping your palette really comes into play, folks, because look, my paint is still good. Yay! I left it all set up because I knew I was going to be using these same colors on the white dragon. So, we unsaran ourselves. And after you, depending on how long you leave your paint with the saran wrap over the top, you may want to add just a little bit of water. These really shouldn't need too much since I was just working with them this morning. Yeah, happy Wings Day. It was wing earlier, but it's not wings now. I decided I'm going to work on this side of the dragon and make it look like that side of the dragon. Because he's all nice and his scales are all lined and he looks brilliant. And this side of the dragon is still mocked in, so we're going to do that. I do need his wing to test the light because I know one of them is more straight up and one of them is more flopped over. So, okay, on this side of the dragon, yeah, there's a lot catching the light up there, so I'll need to definitely highlight like his neck and stuff. All right, well, let's do that. Let's get into it. Yeah, so, and then tomorrow I think is just going to be kind of finishing up and gluing everything together. So that I can turn him in to Ron before I leave the state. So yeah, all right, let's see here. So everything looks pretty good blocked in. I don't think I need to adjust anything at this point. I pretty much just need to start highlighting. Because here I did do some highlights here, but I need to highlight his neck especially because that's going to catch the light. So let's move to our skinny highlighting brush. Let's grab our mixing brush and test the consistency of our white since we left it. That looks pretty good. Because you will get a tiny bit of evaporation, but not much over just a couple hours. So we'll see. Rawr, yes. Yes, good afternoon. So, yay! So yeah, I'm totally housebound after this for a while. I'm going to hold off leaving the house for as long as I can. Although I do need to get some maintenance done on my car. before I... Here, let me get this in focus. Let me see. Slide palette out of view. Get this. Do that. There we go. That's much better. And let's see how this white goes. So really, I'm just going to do some strokes and highlight the edges of these scales to bring them up closer to white. And I prefer to do this. I guess I could start with my pale blue here, which is really an off-white made with my blue liner mixture. We'll see how this works. Yeah, that works. Hi, Kiri. You gonna make an appearance? No? She's just moving around. She's like, what are you doing, Mom? This isn't stream time. Stream time is morning. Dogs and their routines. You ever notice that? Dogs are totally creatures of routine. And when the routine gets disrupted, they're like, WTF, Mom? She's also like, who are you talking to? So I'm just doing some little strokes toward the edge of the scale to make it more close to white. Hey, Nomad Zeke, how's it going? Hey, Jetta Rose. And then I'll get my white and bring it up even more. And remember, if I want it to look white, the majority of the scale should end up, you know, very pale blue or white. If you want it to look white, you do need to bring it up to pure white for at least a good portion of the area. At least half, if not more. So we want these top scales to be very strongly white since they're facing the light. And I may put on a couple of layers, and just this lets me smoothly build up instead of just blocking in. If I were going really fast, I could just block in areas and leave it kind of rough, but... And I guess I should work on the crest since I've got the paint and the crest is right here. There. Yeah. Oh, Cybstorm, yeah, once they get in the habit, it's like almost impossible. Oh, yay, thanks for the sub. C. Ballin, thank you for the sub. Xanatonium, my mover tells me we're still on schedule. They haven't had any problems with interstate moving. They've had problems with international because of the direct travel bans. But there are no, like, it's like, my move has been scheduled for months, so I have a necessary purpose in moving, essentially. So it's like, I don't have a place to live here anymore, and I have, you know, a home in California, so essentially... I'm not too worried. I mean, if things go weird and I have to put my stuff in storage here, I'm just going to throw the dog in the car and just go for it. I mean, I can certainly bring it up in a suitcase to live on while I'm waiting for things to get ironed out. So, in other words, California and ensuing states try to stop me. I am determined to move even with a pandemic going on. There we go. We've got some nice highlights on his little crest there. Hey, Reaper Dave. Oh, M. Fantana, thank you. How many hours do you think you put into these dragons? Actually, we know exactly how many hours I put into these dragons. Right, Justin?
Yes. Since this is, well, we have a rough estimate. We have, like, this is episode 37, so...
But then we did, subtract the seahorse episodes during Bones, so that's 4. So 33 minus maybe the koala episode. I think koala we did.
And they're typically, anywhere from an hour, sometimes we've done 2 hours.
We've done an hour and a half in the past, too. Like, closer to the beginning, we're doing an hour and a half consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, my short guess is probably between 40 and 50 hours total by the time they're done, and that would be about right. For small dragons, about 20 hours is like my lowest estimate. Plus I did the base. So yeah, about that. I mean, that's I just had a person ask me to quote for a commission on a small dragon, and my minimum was 20 hours. 20 to 30 hours was my guesstimate, and so that's kind of for this standard of work. And now for competition pieces, all bets are off, folks. If I was doing a dragon for competition, the last dragon I attempted to finish for competition was at 120 hours when I called it off, and it wasn't done. So, you know. Now, nowadays, I've gotten faster at some techniques, so I could probably do that, you know, in less time, but I'm still guessing if I did a competition piece dragon, it would take at least 80 hours. I mean, look at Soldier, with all the work that I did on him. You know, he's a 12-inch tall statue with a lot of detail and texture, and he was 140 hours, I think. So it depends. It really widely depends. But for these guys, I think they're going to end up between 40 and 50 hours. Which, if you're trying to do, like, dragons, I mean, expect it to take a little longer. Because they're big. I mean, even though they're only, like, one color or a couple colors, they're big. So there, we got the crest all nice and highlighted. Thank you, Everlina. Yeah, he's coming along. I'm going to highlight the other side of his crest a little bit more. I didn't quite get it as much as I wanted to before. I really like how the white dragon is turning out, actually. So I'm glad you like him. There we go. Good enough. Good enough, little white dragon. All right, now let's get the rest of your neck scales. And then we'll do some more lining. It's been a long time, Kerniko. Yeah, you've been watching us for a long time. Thank you for the sub. Justin doesn't know. Don't let him fool you. Yeah, no joke, right, Reefer Dave?
Hey, Dave, just because we're gonna have some more home time doesn't mean you control me more.
Oh, it totally means that. Come on. I mean, you're
actually,
dealing.
That is actually correct. You're right.
Yes. I mean, come on. Look at Dave and Ed. I mean, Ed is the one that we all look at when somebody yells troll and points randomly in a direction at Reaper. But in reality, I think Dave is even better at it than Ed.
In fact, last night when I was trying to get him and Ed together to do the actual stream to get the test done,
yeah,
it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of like herding cats. They were trolling the hell out of me.
So it was not only herding cats; it was herding cats who are also trolls. We now need a troll cat. We need one named Ed and one named Dave. Troll cat miniature.
Oh yeah, Albevs, and I'm feeling a lot better. A lot better.
Can't you tell he's got his normal resonant voice back? He doesn't sound like he's like eating gravel.
Yeah, it's been. I haven't had a cough since last Friday, I think. So it's nice.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to move back to a lighter color now on these underscales since they are darker. We don't want to highlight them straight up with white. We want to get them highlighted with an off blue-gray first. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush because I'm getting puddles. Troll cats. Yeah, Silverthorn, we need troll cats. Because let's face it, cats are amongst the biggest trolls in life and reality. Like, cats can troll with the best of them. So we really need some, like, dire cats who are, like, trollish cats. Like, if trolls had cats, these are what they would look like. There you go, Ron Hawkins. If you're watching, time to get some troll cats on the menu for release. Some sculptor would love to do that. Although now that I think about it, like doing animal versions of various Reaper personalities would be kind of fun. Like have everybody pick their breed of dog or cat or other animal and have the sculptor sculpt the Reaperites. Dave would maybe be a Sheltie who is like chewing up an abacus. That would be good. That would be cute. Or a Sheltie with, like, spectacles perched on his nose doing taxes. They're smart enough to do taxes, right, Dave? Howdy, 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 everybody who I missed. Shadow Raven, Alpavazen. Troll addiction. The Reaper Personalities expansion. Yes, yes. Exactly. And I would either be a shepherd or a miniature T-Rex, because apparently T-Rex is my spirit animal. How many confirmed cases in Denton County? I mean, I saw 30, but that was yesterday, Miss Dimp. And the map, when I looked at the map spread over Denton County, it was everywhere, pretty much. There were little dots everywhere. So I'm just staying home. Kiri and I have all the food we need. She might even get some of my salmon if she gets low on dog food. Maybe even if she doesn't get low on dog food, because spoiled old dog. But yeah, so just gonna hunker down. Oh yeah, Valandar, same here. I grew up with Shelties also, and my Sheltie was 2 inches too tall. He was 18 inches at the shoulder. He was a huge Sheltie, which was highly ironic because I originally wanted a collie, and my parents said no, so they got me a Sheltie, and then he tried to grow to the collie size. His name was Fergus. It was a good Scottish name for a Scottish breed. And he was really pretty. He was a sable, and he was a really dark mahogany color. It was really a beautiful color. Have a bearded collie. I think that's what Victoria has from Victoria Miniatures. I think it's bearded collies. It's either beardies or Old English sheepdogs, but I think it's beardies. She really likes them. Just gonna keep our... We're just highlighting little scales, folks. This is where you get in the Zen zone, where you just like put on... Normally, I just put on my tunes, and I just highlight scales. Because it's like repetitive and hypnotic. And when you have to do this sort of thing, don't enter it at mindset is everything. Don't enter into it thinking, oh no, I have to do this. Oh, it's going to be so boring. Blah, 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 blah. I don't have the patience. No, don't think that. Think, this is my enjoying time to listen to my audiobook or listen to music and just, kind of zone out. And do it that way. That way it goes very fast. And you're like, you'd be shocked at how much you could get done in just 45 minutes of listening to your podcast or your audiobook or your in my case, music. I love music when I paint. Although I can do audiobooks. But I do like music better. There we go. Got some highlights. Yeah, Valandar. Yes, they're very happy dogs. I do love my shepherds. I've liked shepherds since I was little. I always like the herding breeds in general, though. All the herding breeds are... I like their focus on humans. They're so easy to train. And smart. I like smart dogs. I'm just kind of going to keep going on our little odyssey of highlighting scales. I think I want to just hit these, and then I'm going to start lining some down here, because I don't want to necessarily hit everything. I still want to keep my highlights and shadows. highlight there. Now I want to concentrate highlights more on the upper sides of these scales and less on the lower side, although I might do a little bit of reflected light, so I might do a little bit of a highlight on the lower part. But where they're, you want most of your bright highlights to be where it's facing the light. And this wing is straight up and down, so it will definitely, these upper parts of these scales will definitely get strong light. Let's see here. There we are. Just getting more. Lock it in my scales. Highlight, highlight, highlight. There we go. Alrighty. Disregard. A little bit up here, and then we'll do some lining. And a little bit on the lower side here, just a little bit, just so it doesn't look like I totally ignored it. And a white dragon would catch reflected light as well, so don't have to feel too weird about putting some highlights on the underside of scales also. There we are. Yeah, hounds, that's actually why I never went for hounds. I grew up with sporting breeds. I grew up with pointers, actually, German Shorthair pointers. My dad still has a German Shorthair. And they're really nice dogs. So of all of the sporting and or hound breeds, hunting breeds, GSPs get my vote just because I grew up with them. But I never liked the stubbornness. My best friend when I was a kid had beagles. And boy, that was some stubborn for you. We both were in our 4-H dog training project and had opposite problems with our dogs. Pretty much. But yeah, I just remember that she was in a tizzy sometimes with those beagles. Now she does field spaniels, and she's actually one of the top breeders of field spaniels in the country, which is really funny that she and I both stayed in dogs. I ran into her on Facebook and was like, whoa, wait a minute, you're showing dogs. It's funny. I don't keep in touch with many of my childhood friends, but she's one that I did. Yeah, beagles. Yep. Oh yeah, Afghans are beautiful dogs. Oh yeah, which is often silverthorn, and whenever they smell something, they really are interested in, because that's the thing with the scent with the hounds, right? They got noses and they use them. Alrighty, let's see here. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna do some lining. I want to bring these scales into definition, so I'm gonna pick, since they're medium, since they're a lighter tone, I'm gonna use a medium color. So I'm gonna actually mix up my middle color here. Let's get my colors all mixed up and then put them back in the frame. There we are. There. All right. Ah. So there's all my colors. So I wouldn't want to use something this dark, because this is just, it would just look like stripes. It'd be bad. So this might be okay. I'm going to start with like kind of somewhere between here and here. I'll probably do a mix. There. The other thing I could do is take my darker color and just thin it down a little bit more, so it would be a little bit more subtle, and that would be a good way to get the lining in also. So mostly we need to do this just because we want more definition, and where I feel like I need a lot of definition, like up here, I might use my even darker color to set off that row of scales. There. Yeah, I knew somebody who bred Borzois, much like Afghans, But they were sweet, sweet dogs. I've always had, always kind of liked Borzois. There we go, that's a bit better. And of course we'll be back tomorrow with even more dragon. Yay, okay, that looks a little better. Now I need to get this leg, dragon leg incoming. Hey, hello Glenn, glad you got home in time. I was late to start anyway because I was out trying to run errands before they lock us down. But now I have everything I should need. For at least a few days of quarantining myself and Kiri. Alright, that's too dark for that leg there. So I'm gonna rinse out my brush and reload. I'm using DaVinci right now, but Reaper brushes, if you were going to do this technique on a with Reaper brushes, I would say for the lining you want an Aught 5 Kolinsky Sable from the Masters brush range, the black handles and red packaging, I believe. And for like the bigger blending part, you probably want the biggest brush that we make. I think we make a number 2 round in that. But you could also use actually a flat Taklon from our other pro brushes. Because for the initial wet blend that I did, that's a very simple technique. You don't need a lot, you don't need a great tip. You just need to be able to cover a lot of ground. So I have used Reaper brushes in pro tip on this on pro tips and everything in the past. I used to use nothing but the Reaper Kolinsky Aught 5 for everything I did for Reaper when I was staff painting. It's a workhorse. It's just my workhorse brush. It's a good size for both detail, layering, and other sorts of blending and washes and glazes. So I used it for a lot. So usually Aught 5 and Aught 10 are the 2 sizes of the Kolinskys that I recommend for people. Oh, I keep meaning to line and then I keep distracted by highlighting. This happens all the time in the evening when I'm trying to paint things and I'm like, I need to work on this. And the next thing I know, I'm working on something completely different just because it snagged my attention and I went, I need to fix that. It's very silly. I'm a very silly Anne. I'm stuck without a adequate color, so I'm gonna thin this down a bit. I want this darker color, but I don't want it so harsh. So I'm gonna add a couple of drops of water to it to see if I can make it a little more subtle, because that's really stark. If that's the more expensive brushers, then yeah, you ordered the Kolinsky Sables. So hopefully you ordered like an Aught 5 and Aught 10 or something in that range. Those are the most useful sizes in my opinion. All right, that's a little bit better. Now that I've thinned that color, it's not as, it doesn't stand out quite as much, so it's not as harsh. And if I do want it darker, I can always build up 2 layers. I'm just pretty much tracing the scales. This is, by the way, excellent practice for brush control. And if you mess it up a little bit, like I did there, just take some water, kind of scrub it off. But yeah, I recommend lining as a useful technique for building brush control quickly. So a lot of people hold off trying to paint fine details because they're intimidated by them. But if you never try, your brush control is never going to get good enough where you don't have to worry about it. So usually I say do lining because it's relatively low stress, but you're still trying to be precise, and so it will help you to develop the brush control you need to be confident at doing stuff like buckles and eyeballs and all the little detail things that generally give us conniption fits as painters. See, Bellin, I've never had a problem really. I don't actually change the heat or the ambient temperature of my house at all. I just work with it. I find that as long as you build deep puddles, it'll keep its consistency. Even in arid climates, I have worked with this over a wet palette because the problem with a wet palette is that it's constantly wicking moisture through the paper into the sponge and up from the sponge into your paint. And so if you're working at a particular consistency, which is pretty relatively thick, then it actually doesn't work. It works great. You don't have to, your wet palette is just fine. But when you start working with really thin paint, like I tend to, where I'm putting a lot of water into it, where often I'm working at like a 2-to-1 paint to water or even a 1-to-1 paint to water, then I can't keep it at the right consistency on a wet palette. So I will use a well palette when I want to use thinned paint applications. So, if you work with mostly thicker paint, you don't even have to think about changing. But it's when you're trying to get layering dialed in or, blending, well, wet on dry blending, which is layering, that it can frustrate you because your paint won't stay at the consistency that you need it to be. So that's why I say that I use a well palette. And honestly, I really load up the wells. Like most of these wells have 8 drops of paint plus a bunch of water, maybe 12 drops, even more drops in some case of a ratio. So it keeps it very fluid, even in a dry climate. Yes, it will slowly dry in a dry climate, but then I've just gotten the habit of just, when I load up my brush, I kind of look at it, and if I start a brush stroke and I'm like, oh no, that's too thick, I'll stop and I'll just add a drop of water. Because as you work with it, of course, you get a feel for where you want your working consistency. So you're going to notice when your paint has evaporated enough that it's not producing, the results you really want. So that's the point where I'll stop and I'll add a little bit of water to my well, and then I'll just keep marching on. So yeah, I have luck with wet palettes when I'm trying to work with thicker paints. I'm doing a lot of wet blending or blocking in. Then I find that they're very good because most of that time I'm using thicker paint. But when I stop to do the fine stuff where I need thinner paint, then I have problems. And some people really adapt to using a wet palette where they can do thin paint applications with it, and they just, essentially what they do is hand mix every single brush full of paint, right? Because they have to add more water, they have to add this or that, They're constantly playing with their consistency. And some of them have just decided that they want the texture from the brush strokes, so they don't need to worry about getting their paint right to the consistency where they can get good layers. I like blending and I like smoothness where it's appropriate, and I also like to I'm hyper control over my paint. I like to know what my paint's going to do, to control it absolutely, so that I can produce the effects that I'm used to producing. So for me, it would be really frustrating to have to mix every brushful and hope that it was the right consistency. I'd much rather just dial it in. But I do my boyfriend does, he only uses a wet palette. He never uses a well palette. He still gets international grade awards for his painting. So you don't have to use one or the other to get good painting. It really doesn't matter. What does matter is your style. So it will affect your style as to what you use. So try both. If you're in a dry climate, try adding more paint and more water to your wells so that they get, a nice deep puddle in there. And play with it, see what it does. See if you can work with it, or if it's just not working, then yeah, wet palette, and see which one is less frustrating to you. Because really, it's all about finding something that works well for you, that produces the least amount of frustration and the best results for you. Every painter is a little bit different. Hey, no problem, Rex. Okay, 10-augh's going to be pretty good. Use really thin paint with the 20-aught, Glenn. It's a very small brush. But the 10-aught is one that I really... I use the 10-aught a fair bit for details for eyeballs and stuff like that, so it's going to be very good for that sort of thing. And for buckles and for fine detail. Anything really on a fine detail on a 28mm, your 10-aught's going to be just fine. You will find with smaller brushes that you do need to use thinner paint. They don't work so well with thick paint. All right, there we go. We got some nice little toes going on this dragon. Almost done with my toes. Toes. Could sing a little song about painting dragon toes, but here we go. Almost done. There. I'm just blocking in that other side. Alright, that's looking good. I've got a little bit more to do up top. There. And there. And under the feet will probably be dark. So I'm going to fill that in. There we are. And probably same for that one down there. This is my favorite brush in all of creation, Zemicon. There's the #1 Da Vinci Maestro Series 10. Series 10 size 1. It is a very narrow, long brush. It works very well if you use thinned paint. It works craptastically if you use thick paint. So use it for thinned paint and details. I use it for pretty much everything, almost, because I love to do tiny details on things. And I'm almost always using thin paint applications. So this is essentially the brush brand and size I've used for about 20 years for all my competition painting. I just love the results. I keep trying other brushes because I like to experiment and I like to see new things, but I always go back to this one. And yeah, the tip's amazing. Like, pretty much this sucker is just has a really long, fine tip that's right spot on. Block in some of these undersides and shadowed areas. There we go. Excellent. Sweet. All right, dragon. And he's got all his nice little scales figured out, and I think I want to go up there and play with his arm, but first I want to finish lining his tail. Mist-Stamp plastic, the paint just sticks to it. With a stainless steel or aluminum or plastic palette, the paint will stick to it, period. You whereas the porcelain, you just throw it in the sink with some hot water and, like, you know, cleaning agent, and then you can use a green scrubby and get it absolutely pristine. And the paint will not stick to it. So, very much easier to clean, much less frustration on that front. I am one of those people who likes to have a clean palette to start with on a project, and so I used to get so frustrated as a kid when all we had was plastic palettes and I could never get them clean. So when I realized that porcelain was the answer, I never went back. Oh, sorry. Brands of brushes that I use. The one that I like the most is Da Vinci. Reaper brushes, the Kolinsky Sables are good in the /5 and /10. I've used Winsor & Newton Series 7, the standard, not the miniature. Size is 00, I believe, for that one is my favorite size. And I've used some Raphael 8408s, size 1 and 0. All of those brands are good. There are also Rosemary and Company. A lot of people like them, but I personally have not used them. I keep getting told to use them, and I keep like thinking about it, and then I just look at all the brushes I already have and go, I do not need another brush right now. So maybe next time I order. But there are lots of brushes. I mean, ask on any painting forum or Facebook group or whatever, and people will give you all sorts of recommendations. But I love DaVinci because I love how fine and thin this brush is. I can do such fine detail with it, and that's kind of my painting style. So you always want to adjust your size and like brand of brush to the style that you do. And if you don't have a style yet because you're an intermediate or starting out painter, then I advise you to try a lot of different shapes and sizes of brushes until you get the one where you're just like, yeah, this. Because everybody has a different favorite brush. It really does depend on your painting style and the techniques that you favor, and also the thickness of paint that you favor, and even the type of palette that you use. All of these things influence how you execute that in the hobby. So always like try a bunch of stuff. And kind of give it a chance too. You don't try it once and you're like, raw, I hate it. But in reality, it might just take you some time to adjust to it, right? When you try something new. So do give it a chance. Although if you try something and you come up with a definitive reason why I don't like it, as in like I tried a wet palette and I hate it because X, and it's directly affects my paint consistency, then well, it's a valid reason. But otherwise, yeah, try to give anything a chance. I gave wet palettes a chance a couple of times in the past, and now I know what they're good at. So if I am working with thicker paint and like wet applications, like thicker, like wet blending, I totally will get out my wet palette. But if I'm doing any layering or fine work, I'm totally on the well. Though I can wet blend with this as well. At this point, I'm good enough with the well palette that I really can do everything with it. So I know where its weaknesses lie, and its strengths. So playing with Dragon Tales. Yeah, it's true, Miss Imp. That's why you always ask. Thanks, Lady Daredoggo. I mean, that's why you want to ask on streams like this. Like what size, what series and size, and brand. In general, well, I mean, in general, when in doubt, I always tell people get a 00 or a 5/0 if they don't have 00. Usually, branches that'll give you a smaller brush with a finer tip. But for some reason, DaVinci. Their one is just thinner, a little bit proportionally thinner than the other brushes in this series, and so I just fell in love with it because it's an oddball and it works so well for me. So I hope to God they never change it, because otherwise I would cry if they changed it. That would be bad. I should probably keep a secret backstock of them, just in case they ever do change them, so that I have a few reserved. I had to look over because Kiri was like, had her paws twitching in her sleep. It was cute. Now she's like looking at me going, what? What are you looking at? I'm not cute. I'm dignified. So it's like only 10 days till I leave to drive to California, guys. It's like kind of scary. Like I'm looking at my house and what a shambles it is because I pulled everything out of the closet so I could pack it like with a system. And I'm just shaking my head at myself. It's just like, oh my God. I must really love this guy because the amount of chaos that I'm descending into to move to where he is pretty impressive. Yeah, size 28404. Yeah, Raphael, big body, sharp tip. Yeah, Raphaels are weird that way. Like, it's actually why I have a problem with them is with using them is that they've got such a sharp tip and such a big belly. So I would have to like really get used to them, I think, to to get used to the amount of paint that's coming off of them because of that. Because it's an interesting, it's almost a hybrid sort of brush. I've got 80. I mostly have 8408s. I don't know if I have an 8404 somewhere. But they are very good brushes. The quality is definitely there. There we go. Got some more scales highlighted. Yeah. I think because the brush is so very large, Duo, doing dots with those could be difficult. A shorter, finer brush can be better for tiny details like eyeballs. Just because the shorter the bristle, the more control you generally have is part of the reason. Oh yeah, lava being. Sorry. This is Dance of Death. Wait. What time is it? I guess I've got another 15 minutes.
4 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got another 15 minutes because we started late, so I could.
You're completely free, and do what you want to do.
Do whatever I want to do. All right, I will do whatever I want to do. I will assemble this briefly for Lava Being, and then we'll go back to it. Here, Lava Being, just for you. I'm gonna move to my face cam. Oh wait, I bet I probably I forgot to deactivate my intro, guys. So you're gonna get the paint splotch. Get ready. Here it comes. Yep. Now I remember those. Now I can deactivate my paint splotch. There we go. All right, so Lava Being, just for you. Let us put our dragons in place. More or less, and hook up their little paws and get their little legs attached. That's the nice thing about bone stuff. It's actually pretty easy to put kind of a dry run, although they don't like to stick together quite yet. But okay, so there we go. So here's how they're going. They come on this awesome base of rocks, and I've got Mr. Black Dragon fighting Mr. White Dragon, and I haven't done the scales all on Mr. White Dragon's wings yet, so those will go on later, but you get the idea. It's really an awesome piece. It'll be out this summer. It was a Bones 4 piece, and it was sculpted by Julie Guthrie, who is the bestest at dragons, period. There you go. All right, back to minicam. All right, let's get all these guys. You'd notice I did actually get the wings both glued on Black Dragon, and they stayed, and like everything's awesome, guys. I also did some touch-ups on him. So maybe I really want us to be able to construct this tomorrow and do some touch-ups. So we'll have to figure out how I'm going to make the camera work for that. But this is technically a pretty adaptable camera, so we'll see. You might have to see how absolutely cluttered my desk is, because I don't know if I'll have the nice backdrop if I'm going to aim my camera up at dragons. Put my base up there. All right, back to dragoning. These are a little harsh, so I'm gonna take them down with a little bit of. If you ever get I got some very harsh lines up here, so I just used my pale blue and I kind of got it thin and I painted it right over those lines. And what it does is it makes them a little lighter. Alrighty. Now I want more white. I want to hit these scales here. I want to hit more here. I want to hit it here and here to make that white stronger. So we're going to get this shoulder. We're really going to hit these top scales pretty strongly with the pure white, because that's where the light is going to fall onto. They're going to hit his shoulder. And then this, wherever anything sticks out, it'll catch the light. One thing I'm pretty sad about is that since I'm leaving, since all this quarantine stuff, I won't be able to go to the Renaissance Fair like I wanted to. I wanted to hit the fair one last time before I left the state, but it is not to be. I'll just have to see if they have a decent California Renaissance Fair. There. Yeah, Lava Being, I was looking at that. Essentially, some of the stuff on this guy is like this side here has a shadow because the wing is falling over it. But on this side, the wing is going straight up. So I pretty much can highlight wherever we have it sticking out. And this guy's up on top of the other guy, so I wasn't as like stringent about it as if I was trying to be super ultra realistic, but I did actually think about like where the light would fall and where the wings positioning was. There are some models that I'm a little bit more stringent on it. In truth, really hyper realistic lighting is really hard to do. And some people just seem to have a really good knack for it. I have to like take photos and wrap my brain around it to get really good at it. To have all of the shadows lining up and the highlights lining up with the way it would be in nature. And I'm more likely to do that sort of hyper realistic lighting on like something like a competition piece where I have the time to really make it look right, because it does take time. All right. Gonna get his little toes. These are all splayed out. So all those little scales can get a highlight. There. That at least gets us roughly there. And now we gotta get this upper leg. Good afternoon, Balrog. Do I not have to worry about shading as much for models over a certain size? Oh, sorry, I just misunderstood that question, Lava Being. Okay, so yes, it's true. When you get over 54 millimeter, you can de-intensify your shadows. The reason for this is that at that point, the model is large enough to cast its own natural shadows. But often, it depends. Yeah, I didn't shade as much on, say, my Soldier 76 statue, which was 12 inches tall. And he looked pretty good, even block painted, but still, some shading did make him look better. So I guess the point is not to not shade, but that you may find that harsh shading, like you do on a 28 millimeter model, will look wrong. Sorry for misinterpreting that question. Thought you were asking about like cast shadow on the model. But yeah, the general guideline is once you hit 72 millimeter, you can go a little bit more light with your shadows. You don't have to go as crazy. If you do, though, keep in mind it depends on what you're trying to do. And again, this is in the realm of realism. If you're trying to give a very realistic sunlit scene, that would produce dark shadows. Anytime anything is under bright sunlight, the shadows are dark. Except where like light is reflecting up from the environment at the model. So it's not always true that you de-emphasize shadows on larger models. It depends on what you're trying to do. Well, good, Lava Being. I'm glad. Yeah, there's so many schools of thought with shading and highlighting, and really, it's like it's another thing that kind of depends on your style. So it's like I tend to do very subtle work. I tend to my shadows and highlights. I tend to look more. I don't know. I got told I had a very realistic style instead of a very understated style, um, and yet people who do like really strong highlights and shadows can still come off as very realistic. It's just like punch you in the face kind of realistic. So I would say that your highlighting and shading tactics depend kind of on your painting style. Just thinking of the painters I know. Let's see. Now I need white for that little fin bit that sticks out. Fin bit is good. All right. let's see. I need some more here. Are we rating? Who's rating? Who's rating? Monkeys with Fire. Thank you for rating us, Monkeys with Fire. That is awesome. Hello, Kenshin Painter. Good day. And Otterman. I am highlighting scales on a white dragon right now. Part of the Dance of Death diorama with 2 dragons fighting. So we're very, very close to finished on it now. And I am attempting to finish the scale work so that I can attach the wings without making it harder to paint. Because I always paint the wings separately on dragons and big winged things, because I find that it's very difficult to paint the wings once they're on the model, and it can be difficult to even paint the model once the wings are on, because the wings are getting in your way all the time. So instead, I paint them separately, and then I attach them. So this is letting me do all the scale work on this dragon, and then I can come back with the wing, which has been painted previously, and put that on after I'm all done. So Mr. Dragon is there. So yeah, we're working on that. We're almost there. We're so close. So close to being done with this dragon diorama, which has taken me 10 months, did somebody say? A lot of months. It's taken me many, many months at like 1 to 1.5 hours a week. And if I would have thought of that when I started this, I might not have started it. Instead, I was just like, let's paint Dance of Death. It's awesome. So somewhat regrets. Tiny regrets. But not very much. Thanks, guys. But yeah, I do like how the white dragon is turning out. I may have to do a competition level white dragon one of these days. Would be kind of fun. I say that, and then, when I'm actually trying it in 2 years, I'm just going to want to shoot myself, probably. All these scales.
Yeah, actually, Lava Being right now, for instance, we're sitting at about a 150, which is definitely higher than
Nice. Yeah, well, I'm glad. We're glad to entertain you guys. We're going to try to ramp up our streaming a little bit. There's going to be a bit of a cessation of me streaming because I'm taking off for California in like 10 days, and then I have to actually drive there. And in the meantime, I'm going to be packing up my whole house and everything. So I will be interrupted for a bit. But then once I'm in California, we will be we'll be working up, figuring out, hopefully by that point, what our new stream schedule is going to look like, what our new normal is, and all the rest of it. But as long as people are kind of confined to their homes, we want to be able to give you guys a lot of content and also a place to hang out virtually so that you don't feel so lonely. Because I know it gets old being stuck at home. Even if you have other people there, it's the same old people. It's nice to, quote, get out virtually and talk with people. And hopefully this is also like, gets you excited about painting and makes you want to, whip out some models, because it's a great hobby for this kind of thing. For once, we all have the time to do our hobbies. We should totally take advantage of this. There we go. A little bit of highlight here. I'm trying not to highlight all the way down the tail because I'm going to be touching up the tail after I attach the dragon and attach the dragons to each other. I do want a little bit of highlighting up here. Slightly lighter color, or slightly darker color, not a pure white. But I do want to hit the edges of these little scales. Ah. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my Discord just burbled at me. Almost got all that. He's looking great. I'm very happy. Then I'll have to do all of his little claws. Maybe we'll do his little claws on the stream tomorrow morning. I don't know. I probably should do the I should do the clasped paws at some point. I might do those on stream. Because they've got, he's holding on to the other one's paw down here. And I haven't painted that at all. And I need to finish that foot too. So, and get the other claws marked in. So, yeah, maybe we'll have time to do all of that tomorrow. Then I can show you guys how I peg him together. All right, I think that's pretty good. Yep. Awesome. Whenever your paint doesn't want to come off your brush, it means that your paint has either started to dry in your brush or gotten too thick. So either you need to thin your paint more or you need to reload your brush if you think that it's just you haven't rinsed your brush in a while. So always be confident or be conscious of that. There, perfect. Alrighty, that's pretty okay. Let's see here. Just a little bit of highlight on the paw there. There. Some little underscales here that need a little highlight. But that's coming along pretty well. Excellent. Yay, dragon! Rawr, he says, rawr. So I do have to do his eyeball. I have to get his horns figured out. I need to get his claws. There is quite a bit of little tiny detail work that needs to be done. And I need to technically get this knee too. Yeah, no time for painting. Yeah. Some of you definitely have workloads that have gotten more instead of less. In which case, thank you for helping to keep the country running. More or less. We appreciate you. There we go. Doo-doo-doo. Yay! Mr. Dragon. Technically, I feel like that little leg needs a highlight too. Better highlight than it got before. Just needs to get a little brighter. Keeping an eye on the chat. We're almost to the end of stream. There we go. That looks good. There. Huzzah! Rawr, says Dragon. He's looking good. He looks good. He looks just as good as his other side now, so I'm happy. Sweet. Hey, sibling. What up? Oh, because oh my. Because the grocery stores are running out of food and people have been, well, at least people are helping the restaurants, because at first the restaurants were scared because like people weren't going out, but now things seem to be reversing. There we are, guys. We have Dragon. And yeah, it's just a few little details that I need to get ironed out on him before I can attach his wings. We might finish his wings tomorrow. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out what I want to do for tomorrow morning. Yeah, that's true, Glenn. I mean, but the point is, of course, that we don't want to overwhelm our healthcare. So yeah, there's a plus and a minus, right? For sure. And we'll see. I mean, Reaper's keeping a close eye on it as far as ReaperCon and how it may impact it. We really don't know anything. We'll know a lot more at the end of April, I think, as far as how this thing is spread and whether we are peaking and when we will likely peak and whether we have effectively flattened the curve. So, it's got to be a wait and see. Worrying about the future that far into the future at this point, I think is probably counterproductive. I mean, Reaper obviously has to kind of worry about it, but even for us, it's counterproductive. We have to go ahead, assuming the con is going on. So yeah, thank you for the dragon compliments. All right. Yeah, New Zealand, I know. I'm a fan of Amanda Palmer, musician, and she's been pretty much. They were on tour when this all hit, so she and her husband and her son have been kind of stuck in New Zealand, and they just had to rent a different house um, to stay. Yeah, so all your restaurants are closed. That's a bummer, Karanico. Ours are allowed to do business as long as it's for carry out. Yeah, it does. It does put all the conventions coming up. I know because I mean I'm going to be in San Francisco and Kubla Khan is out there and it's Memorial Day and I'm like I didn't ask the organizer if they were thinking of shutting it down because I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be we won't know until we're closer. Yeah, she's married to Neil Gaiman. You got it in Celadon Oceans. Another, I'm also a fan of Neil. But yeah, she's been sharing a lot on her Patreon. She's one of the artists that I patron as well. So there's a couple people who I have a webcomic person who I am a patron of, and I have and I do Amanda. And I guess now is the time then to mention my Patreon. So back to Facecam because it is time. Yeah, it is. We've done it over an hour. Lovely. So, guys, I have a Patreon. Many of you are on it, and thank you so much. It means so much to me that you are on my Patreon and that you are my patrons. I love it. I love my Patreon. So, yes, patreon.com/paintingbig. I do a lot of stuff. My $5 tier is for like color stuff. So if you're a fan of Master Series or just of color theory, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on choosing colors and color schemes in the coming months, just because that seems to be something that people really want help on. So we're doing that. I just did like a types of color schemes PDF for this month at the $5 level. So go over, take a look, patreon.com/paintingbig. Thanks. Justin, do you have a raid ready?
Yes, I'm actually looking as we speak.
Thanks, Dan Goodchild. Thank you, Max Styles Painting. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm sorry, Mr. Tommy. I have to go. For one thing, I didn't get lunch because I was trying to run errands before lockdown. And so by the time I got home, I couldn't eat anything. And now it's like 4:30 almost. I still haven't had lunch, so I may as well have early supper. But yes.
All right, we are going to be rating Jacob.
Oh,
The
right.
Jacob Jen.
The Jacob. Jacob Jensen? All right,
Yes.
guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11. Don't miss it. All right? Tomorrow
Yes,
morning at
keep
11.
watching us paint this dragon here because dragons are awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Spread the Reaper love and keep being awesome. All right. See you guys.